Hi, I am a really big fan of Bruce Wayne as Batman. But what about Terry McGinnis as Batman? There's Batman Beyond. Batman Beyond was a cartoon show that growing up I didn't feel like giving it the biggest chance. Where I watched the first two episodes a lot, the two-part opener, and I watched Return of the Joker a lot. But Batman Beyond felt like a show that took a while for me as a kid to give a big fair chance to. But after giving it more of a fair chance than before, I did end up liking it. I think what's distracting about the show is, the Batman not being Bruce Wayne and heroes having different mantles. I feel like that's a lot more common now, but growing up, um, it felt confusing to me. Where I did understand that Terry McGinnis was the new Batman, but just it felt weird to me. It felt like it didn't fully make sense. And because he has such a different looking costume and is such a different age, it just felt odd to me that he would have the same name. And for a while, I felt that his superhero name was Batman Beyond. It felt confusing to me that his name would be Batman, the same superhero name that Bruce Wayne had. But if I move past all that stuff about mantles and stuff and just look at Terry McGinnis as a character, I do think that he's a good protagonist, and um, I do think that the show does a good job of showing that Terry's a different character than Bruce Wayne. And I feel like if there were going to be, it's going to be another Batman, I feel like it shouldn't be somebody that's exactly the same as Bruce Wayne. There should be some differences. And Terry is a likable character. He has a sympathetic backstory, where it feels somewhat similar to Bruce Wayne's story, but is definitely different enough, at least in my opinion. Um, and Terry, being a different age, he could feel a little bit more immature, but he can still be responsible and get stuff done. And I do like the dynamic between Terry and Bruce, where Bruce becomes a real mentor to him, and with Terry losing his father, I think Bruce helps step in as, I guess, a father or grandfather, or maybe even a little bit of both, and he does. He's able to convey that he does care about Terry, even though at times Bruce seems like grumpy and just wants to be by himself. It feels like he deep down really cares about Terry a lot, and there's a lot of strong interactions between Terry and Bruce, so that stuff's good. I do think that Terry's supporting cast isn't the best, though, and having to make a new supporting cast and a new group of villains for a Batman show, that could be really hard considering how many great characters are in the Batman franchise. But the supporting group in Batman Beyond does feel a bit lacking. Max is a solid character, and she and Terry have a good friendship, so she's not a bad character. But like Dana feels a little like a character that isn't explored that much. Feels like there's not that much more to her than being Terry's girlfriend. Um, Terry's mom is okay. Terry's younger brother is kind of annoying. Um, Terry's father is a good character, but he isn't around for very long. And Some of the other high school characters feel like a bit typical, like a pretty typical bully character and stuff like that. Um, when it comes to the villains, some of them are solid. It is really hard to follow up Bruce Wayne's Rogues Gallery, uh, but I don't think that Batman Beyond is a show that has a bad rogues gallery. I do really like the Jokers. I think they're a fun group. I particularly like the one that Bruce Timm voiced. I think he's a lot of fun. Blight, I felt pretty terrified of as a kid, so bit of a bias there. He is certainly an effective villain, though. And Ink is a solid villain. The Royal Flush Gang, who I think have been in other stuff before, but I feel like Batman Beyond, I think the ones in there are new. They're kind of interesting characters. Um, there's a lot of like decent villains, but I feel like the villains, I feel like should have been in a few more episodes. It felt like that due to it being a new roast guy, I felt like that it was probably hard to figure out like which ones were the big ones to keep bringing back and stuff like that. And I do think that some of them are solid and memorable enough. I think villains like Blight, Ink, the Jokers, provide some entertainment. The Real Flesh Gang work. Spellbinder's a cool enough character, but a lot of them could feel lacking in comparison to a lot of the previous Batman villains. The animation is good. I think it feels a little bit out of place with Batman the Animated Series, but it is supposed to be a long time after that, so I do get it. And Batman's costume in it, it works for Batman Beyond. It's not what I would normally want Batman's costume to be, but it's very solid in the context of the show. And I think that there are some really solid episodes. I think that the big opener, the two-parter, is really good. Does a really good job giving Terry a good origin story. And episodes that explore Terry and Bruce's dynamic tend to be really good. The episodes with Melanie tend to be really good. Um, there's a really fun episode that brings back a great Batman villain that's a lot of fun. So there are some memorable episodes in Batman Beyond. And I do think it's a better show than I originally thought that it was. And it does feel good to give Terry more of a fair chance and realize that he is a very solid protagonist. And the dynamic between him and Bruce is really good. So I feel like when it comes to the big things like uh, the main character, his interaction with his mentor character, and some of the more prominent villains and the animation, stuff like that, I feel like the show handles that very well. So even though there's some stuff that I feel like could have used some work, like maybe some better supporting characters and maybe a few tweaks to the villains and stuff like that, I think the big important stuff in Batman Beyond works. So overall, I think it's a good show.